Oh, so
Your
yeah,
thoughts
so
are.
Senate Bill 55 was a four-pronged approach to try and incentivize end markets in the state of Colorado. So it included a requirement for the CDPHE to conduct a statewide educational campaign, to convene a stakeholder group on how to create an end market development center for the state, researching different end markets for various materials. It created property tax reimbursements for recycling infrastructure sites. And then the fourth prong, which is the work I've been overseeing, is about extended producer responsibility, commonly referred to as EPR. And that's a waste management mechanism in which the manufacturers or producers of a product take responsibility for the end of life management in a fiscal standpoint for the end of life management of their product. So in the state of Colorado, an example of EPR is we have the paint care program. So every time you buy new latex or oil-based paint in the state, you pay a little fee. That fee goes to paint care. All Coloradans now have the opportunity to recycle paint for free at the end of its use. So that's a very common EPR model. So we, over this past year, have conducted a very extensive literature review about all the EPR programs across the country, what materials are covered by EPR. And then actually today we released part of Senate Bill 55 was asking the CDPHE to create policy recommendations on what EPR programs might work well for the state. And I actually released those draft policy recommendations today, which was super exciting.
Cool.
It's like my baby I've been working on for the past year, like now out in the world. So it's kind of nerve-wracking, but also exciting at the same time. So yeah, that's where we're at in the process. EPR isn't a very common materials management approach for C&D materials, but
that was my question. Yeah,
it very well could be incorporated. This principle of making producers and manufacturers take responsibility for their product at the end of the life. I mean, it makes sense. And then that's also going to influence things like design for recyclability. If manufacturers have to take care of it at the end of life, then they're not going to go with the cheapest packaging or transportation or whatever option. They're going to actually start designing for the end of life management to make it more cost effective for them. So
I love the whole idea. And I'm just, already thinking, is there a way that we can reuse wood?
Well, that's what I wanted to tell you about this, Representative Bernett. I will get you all of this material because it is so important. And maybe we can even have like a little after a follow-up call, because I think it's important.
Well, and it's great too, because all local governments are strapped in their budgets right now due to COVID and just being, local government budgets, and EPR provides a mechanism that local governments are still able to divert even more materials than before, but they don't have to pay for it. So it's an excellent approach, in my opinion. So we'll see. It's exciting. We'll see what comes down the road next year as far as EPR, but it'd be interesting to think about how maybe EPR can go into. I'm sorry, my dogs are going crazy right now.
It's okay.
You guys can hear this.
I have a cat that runs across my screen. So what's really cool about this is I know that construction debris is such a big problem and it's so hard to divert it. So I'm just excited about the fact that if we can create end markets in Colorado, we got to do that. It's pretty exciting. I think once people start thinking, if we start moving the ship in the way that we're really paying attention to this, I think you can be a lot more, I think you can be a lot more creative about things going forward. That people, if they start thinking that there's an incentive to do these kind of things. So
since you're here, Representative, I have to also say that we do have a drywall recycling facility in Gypsum, Colorado. This would not necessarily be EPR, but if there was some requirement for recycled content in their products, gypsum drywall is the biggest, or one of the biggest components of construction waste. And if we could get that material right back to our local manufacturer, that would be something that our group has talked about in the past, but there's not, motivation really to do that on their own, that company.
Yeah, and I'd have to